Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to James Cameron.
I almost bailed on being a filmmaker. It's about sitting in that big dark room with all those other people you don't know, and something's going to come up on that screen that's going to take you somewhere.
I'm the king of the world!
Oh, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to James Cameron 101. I'm Eddie Green. Today, we are very excited to welcome an author to the podcast, someone I've been trying to get on for quite some time. And what an episode, because this is the very first episode with the brand new background. This is part of the Cameron collection that is behind me. So very excited to really launch this and have someone on that it seems to be an equal fan of James Cameron. This is Dan JOLIN, and he is the author of James Cameron, The Complete Unofficial Guide, which as of this recording is not out just yet, but it's right around the corner. It's coming out. And so wanted to get him on, geek out about Cameron, and of course, promote the book.
Hello, Eddie. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Yeah, so you're before we talk about the book and how you came to the book, just a little bit about your history. You are associated to Empire magazine, which is the world's largest movie magazine, correct?
That is right. Yes. So I joined Empire as a staff member back in 2004 as their reviews editor. Then I became their features editor a couple of years later. Did that job for a while. Left to go freelance in 2016, but sort of maintained a position as contributing editor, which is like a kind of a special freelancer.
And do you enjoy the magazine business? Very much so?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I also, I mean, I know this isn't the remit of what we're talking about, but I also publish my own magazine as well, which is nothing to do with movies. It's actually to do with board games. So I make a board game magazine, as well as contributing to and writing for movie magazines.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So how does it, like, if somebody's watching this and they're even remotely interested in potentially following a path that you followed, how does someone get into that?
Well, gosh, I mean, there's all different ways, ways of doing it. So my own journey was, I went to university. I didn't study film. I studied history. But while I was at university, I got involved with the student newspaper. And I got involved with the student newspaper through doing movie reviews, eventually becoming like their, they said arts editor. I treated it as cinema editor, basically. I just went, other people can do the other art stuff. I'm just going to do movies. Okay. So I did that for like my final year at uni. And then that just gave me the kind of the portfolio the clearly I needed at that time to get into magazines. I got into a junior level position on a film magazine. That was back in 1997. Which obviously for James Cameron fans is a big year. And so that was a memorable year. And yeah. And then just since then, I just kind of worked my way up through, different positions on magazine staffs, always movie magazines. So I was kind of specializing from the start. But, it's different now. There's other routes into this. Obviously, look at us. Look at what we're doing now. This didn't exist back then. Blogging was a word that I wouldn't, if you'd said it to me in 1997, I just thought, what the hell are you talking about? Right. So, it has completely changed. And the magazine industry is in a very, very different place than it was in the late 90s. So, there's fewer magazines now and the circulations aren't what they were. I mean, it's great that Empire's still going strong after all this time, but it's got a very, very committed readership and subscriber base, which is absolutely fantastic. But yeah, so that I can only tell my story. These days there's so many more routes, but perhaps aren't quite as clear cut as they were for me.
Right. Yeah, I've had a few people on that are film, like, would you call yourself a film critic?
Film criticism is a bit of what I do. I would describe myself as a film journalist. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and now author, I guess. I'm still getting used to that.
Right. Are you on Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, I believe I'm on that. I'm on Rotten Tomatoes.
yeah.
Let's call the whole thing off. And Metacritic as well. So yeah, but you can find my reviews obviously on Empire Online as well as in the magazine. I also write for Time Out. You can find me on there too, and I also do a lot of writing for Screen International. So you can find me on Screen International too, which is more on the industry side of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I was gonna say, like, I've had a bunch of film critics, journalists on, and it's just interesting to see how one gets into that, because it's such a cool thing to be able to call your job, you know, to be able to say, I
No,
write
right.
about movies, I go to see movies for a living, you know, whatever. It's sort of like that that ultimate career that you know, like
Yeah.
a lot of people dream about, you know.
Yeah, I mean, originally the dream was I wanted to be like, you know, that's it, a movie critic. My job would be to just go and see movies every week and then write about them. And some people do have that job today. That's not my job. I mean, I do write reviews. It's part of what I do, but I don't do that thing of like I'm seeing every movie every week to write up for a newspaper or something like that. If someone offered me that job, I'd probably take it. But my sort of personal path has gone a different way.
I love it. I love it. All right. So you are, like you said, you're also an author, and this is not the first, this book that we're highlighting today. This is not the first book in this series that you're doing, the Iconic Directors series, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So it's a series that launched last year, and I'm kind of the launch writer, if you like, the launch author of the series. So it's called the Iconic Director series. And the idea is that they're kind of like sort of rather beautifully presented filmography pieces, you know, the filmography books. So I started with the Coen brothers and Quentin Tarantino last year, and now this year it's James Cameron, and that's coming out early October alongside Christopher Nolan. But I can just sort of, I can show you because I actually got a very early copy here.
Ooh.
Here we go. As you can see, it's rather, you got that nice sort of spot gloss on the old Terminator shades. And then you got the little Terminator shades on the spine there. So yeah, and it's kind of done in a very sort of, you know, very picture heavy, lovely kind of, you know, beautifully designed
Right.
style.
Oh, I love it.
There we go.
Mm.
Anyway, there you are. Oh, hello. Anyway.
So, oh man, I like.
Sorry,
yeah.
so apologies to Jamie Lee Curtis there. Didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's beautifully designed. It's is it, because I noticed when I put my pre-order in, I'm gonna be all over the place here, by the way. Sorry.
That's all right. No worries. I like it. All over the place is good.
When I put the pre-order in for the book, I noticed it wasn't listed as hardcover. It was listed as flexi bound.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool, isn't it? I mean, you know.
Is that what it is? Flexi bound?
So you can see it's got a spine like that, and it's you could argue paperback, but then it does have a, you know, that's a thicker cover than you get with a paperback. Look at that.
Okay.
You know, so it's like a very robust paperback,
Yeah,
or a very lightweight hardback. So
right. Yeah, from here, just looking at it, it looks hardcover.
yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean it's pretty hard, but
All
like,
right.
I could do that with it, which I wouldn't be able to do with a full-on hardcover.
Okay.
But yeah, so there you go. That's how it looks in all good and evil bookstores.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it. Simple. That's, you know, that's one of the things I love about it. It's all these. So there's 4 now come October. All of them have sort of just a single kind of image that reflects the career of the filmmaker you're highlighting. And did you have any say in what that image was, or is that like a publisher?
I did. Yes. Yeah. No. They definitely involved me in that. There were definitely some creative discussions around that. So, and by the way, I would just quickly say there are other books in this series that have come out now by other authors. Okay. So there's one on Sophia Coppola by Christina Newland, and Tim Burton by Ollie Richards. So I'm not just hogging it, you know. Okay. I'm kind of I am. Other people are starting to write these now, but with these ones, yeah, there was a conversation about what the cover should be. I think, as you know, it's always hard to remember the details of these conversations, but I think I did suggest the sunglasses, the Terminator, going with the Terminator, that image. Obviously, now Cameron's very much associated with, Avatar. Obviously, is what it's all about. But it just somehow to me wouldn't have felt right to go with a Na'vi on the cover or something, something from that. And also Aliens. While Aliens is probably my favorite Cameron, definitely my favorite Cameron movie. Aliens, the series, there's lots of different directors have done it. So if you start going with alien imagery, you're not necessarily speaking to what Cameron does. So for me, it was just like, well, Terminator was his first movie. Well, it wasn't his first movie. It was the movie that made him. It was the first movie most people associate with James Cameron. And then obviously he did Terminator 2. And even though there's been other Terminator movies since, for understandable reasons, that series is still primarily associated with James Cameron. Nobody's going, hey, it's a Jonathan Mostow book. Do you know what I mean? It's isn't that a McGee book? No, it's you can associate with James Cameron. So, and I think they did a fantastic job with it. Actually, I was really pleased. And it's Luke Bird is the designer. Just to give him his credit, he did the cover design. So yeah.
Incredible. And was that also in the discussion to release it next to Christopher Nolan because of their now going forward with Cameron's association to Ghost of Hiroshima and all this stuff? Was that?
Yeah, no. That's just coincidence.
That's coincidence. Okay.
I mean, it was quite nice because as part of my, I would say as part of my research, I did watch James Cameron's interview with Christopher Nolan. Which it appeared. So he did that series on Sci-Fi Cinema.
The story of science fiction.
The story of science fiction. Thank you. Yes, you've remembered better than I have. And an accompanying book. So it was kind of nice to sort of like experience Cameron and Nolan in conversation. So that one interview was double research for both books. But funnily enough, the sort of Ghost of Hiroshima was announced very, very late on when I was writing the book. It kind of popped up. And also I would say that one of the most exciting pieces of news that I recently got, which was that Cameron had optioned The Devils, because Joe Abercrombie is one of my favorite writers and his books are among my favorite ever books. So having one of my favorite filmmakers optioning one of my favorite authors' book, which by the way is awesome. I'm assuming you've read it by now, Eddie, but if you haven't, you should. Unfortunately, that news broke after the manuscript was delivered. I can't do anything about it. So one of the most exciting pieces of James Cameron news isn't in the book, which is such a shame. So it gives you an idea of kind of like the lifespan of writing the book. Like it was just like literally the last few weeks of writing was Ghost of Hiroshima was announced. So I couldn't really, get into that association between Cameron and Nolan, or with Nolan doing Oppenheimer. It's more that I think that the way that they schedule these books, it's just like they want them out in time for Christmas. So they want a few titles out. And I had pitched hard. I mean, I pitched hard to do the Coen brothers and Tarantino the first time around, which are kind of like they're my sort of icons of indie cinema. And this time I kind of want to do my icons of mainstream cinema, blockbuster cinema. So yeah, the publisher and the editors that I work with, they went for those. And like I say, there's around the same time, there's other books coming out about very different filmmakers that I didn't write. So
right.
that have no connection to James Cameron as far as I can tell.
Well, just let me, are you familiar with Letterboxd?
I am, although I'm on it, but I haven't really got into it. If you see what I mean. But I do write. Oh, I am going to. If you watch, there's going to be some Dan Jolin writing on Letterboxd. Watch that space. But
okay.
Yeah. But no, I haven't really sort of tucked into it properly.
Let me take this moment because for some reason in Cameron's section of Letterboxd under director is The Devils, and that is literally annoying the crap out of me because as far as I know, unless you know something, he has not even remotely said he's directing it. He's just writing it.
No, yeah. I suspect, I couldn't say for sure. I suspect that it'll be like, one of the movies that he writes and produces.
Right.
or at least, you know, he gets a story by, or he gets a certain writing credit. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes through another writer, and he will have a producer credit. I don't think he'd be directing it. I mean, when's he going to find the time, Eddie? I mean,
Right.
he's a busy man. I mean, I don't know when. I mean, Ghost of, you know, Hiroshima. When's that? I mean, that's like, where's that fitting in?
Right.
with all the avatars, what's happening there? Unless, of course, you know, God forbid, Fire and Ash is a complete disaster and takes an unprecedented turn and just doesn't do well, in which case Cameron will probably step away from Pandora, and we know, who knows, we might get, you know, Ghost of Hiroshima and then The Devils. You never know, but I suspect Fire and Ash will do well, and he's going to be on Pandora for a while yet.
Yes. So when did you start writing the book?
Oh, it would have been just before Christmas. So I'm going to say I started writing it in November last year.
Okay.
And so I started in November and I finished it in January.
Now I assume you've interviewed Cameron, but not for this book.
Never. He's bucket list. He's a bucket list interviewee.
Whew. All right.
Yeah.
So this was all going off of, like you said, the archives and you know, previous interviews he may have given to other outlets.
Yeah. So primarily it's a journey through the films of James Cameron.
Yes.
So what it is it's a little bit, you know, my response to the filmmaker and his work. It's a little bit making of. It's a little bit just kind of like telling his story through the films he made. And then it is just kind of, it's critique, you know. It's like, well, what are the themes that come up again and again? And sometimes, you know, I'm a huge Cameron fan, but not everything in this book is positive. There's some stuff in his work that I take issue with and I'm not keen on, and I talk about that too. So that's not the kind of stuff you can really do if I'm sick. I mean, maybe I could, to be honest, you know, I'm sure he's the kind of guy that would be quite happy for me to sit there and go, well, I didn't like this thing you did, and then he would come back at me, no doubt, full force. But you know, so yeah, it's not whatever, a hagiography, if you like. It's really about me engaging with his work, with his films, and trying to understand his intentions and appreciating, you know, the themes that he throws out there, the often very big themes.
Is his only directed stuff in there, or do you cover the producing and whatnot?
So the way it's structured is primarily it's movie by movie, as in what he directed.
Okay.
So there's a chapter which kind of covers off the documentaries, the deep sea adventures as well. But there's little breakout bits where I talk about, for example, Rambo First Blood Part 2 or Strange Days, which actually I really like. I love that movie. Or, you know, Alita Battle Angel, or is it Battle Angel Alita? I can never remember that. It's one way round or the other way round.
yeah. I think the manga or the anime is Battle Angel Alita, and then the movie was like, hey, let's
Alita Battle Angel. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Okay. It's right. By the way, it's correct in the book. I just want to assure you, this is just my memory. And then also, yeah, Terminator, for example, the later Terminator films I touch upon. So there is stuff in there. There's a little bit, you know, The Crowded Room, which obviously he never made, gets a mention. Spider-Man gets a mention. So, you know, it does take you through that, but it's all built around his, you know, directorial, I'm going to say, I nearly said directorial efforts, but, you know, they were a huge effort, but they didn't feel like they were an effort.
Do you, and if you don't, it's totally fine. I totally understand, because it's sort of this odd little thing that he did. Do you cover T2 3D Battle Across Time?
Yes. There's a page on that.
All right.
That is in there. The only thing that's not in there, and I don't want to sound like, and by the way, apologies to my publishers, I don't want to sound like I'm bitching at all, but I did write a bit of it on the Martini Ranch video.
Reach.
Yes.
Nice.
There was a breakout on that. It didn't make the final cut. So I mean, but I think that's appropriate for a book on James Cameron. He did a lot of great stuff that never made any final cuts. I mean, but he got to do longer versions later, which again, they're all covered in the book as well. All the special editions kind of get mentioned as well. But sadly, I mean, maybe one day there'll be a special edition of this book that I'll get to do, where I get to put Reach back in, which is such a shame, because I love that video, because just to give you just a bit of personal perspective, James Cameron was a filmmaker I kind of grew up with, me and like my gang of friends, who I've dedicated this book to, my gang of friends that I grew up with. And we all played Dungeons and Dragons together and stuff. And we obsessed over James Cameron's movies. And we all became obsessed with the actors that cropped up in his movies. You know, like I was totally like, if something had Bill Paxton in it, I would watch it. It could be anything. I would watch it because Bill Paxton was in it. Michael Biehn, Lance Henriksen, Jeanette Goldstein, these actors that kind of crop up again and again. And of course, you know, they were all in Near Dark, which he produced, even though that wasn't one of his movies. So the fact that obviously, you know, it's Bill Paxton's band, and then a lot of these kind of people that are in other James Cameron works will pop up in that video makes it a real treat for me. But sadly, I didn't get to effuse about it in the book in the end. So yeah, that's the one gap.
So yeah, so you definitely have to do an updated edition. You have to get that in there, and then of course, by the time that happens, Fire and Ash will be out. I mean, I'm
I mean, Fire and Ash is in there. Fire and Ash is in there, but because of when it was written, there wasn't so much like out there about Fire and Ash.
Right.
Of course, since then, my good friend at Empire, Nick DeSemian, he's the editor. He is covering Fire and Ash for Empire, and you know, he got to spend 2 days, I think, 2 days shadowing Cameron down in New Zealand making that movie, which is astonishing access. I'm so jealous.
Shadowing, like just kind of like being
hanging out, like being over his shoulder and watching him work for 2 days, two whole days. So, you know, and he's already published pieces based off that access, which would have been great material to have in the book, but that didn't exist when he hadn't even made that trip when I wrote this book. But he had been talking to Cameron by that point. So there's a few of his quotes in there, like where I'm just like saying, Nick, I'm using some of your stuff because you know, he's the person I think I would say in the world who's got the best access to that movie right now. But yeah, I mean, like there's loads of material that I could add in. You know, and you know, I still hold out hope. Maybe one day I'll get to meet the man and talk to the man. I'd love to.
Yeah, it's I mean, you're in a much better and probably more likely position to talk to him. But there's, for like the general public and, you know, just whatever, there was an event that he did in 2012 that always blows my mind. When Titanic came out on Blu-ray for the first time, he went to I think it was in New York City. He and John Landau went to a Best Buy, which I don't know if you know what Best Buy is.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like a big electronics store, and they went there and they signed copies just in New York City of Titanic on Blu-ray. And that blows my mind because it's sort of like this one-off thing that, because Cameron really doesn't do, you know, conventions, or he doesn't do, because he's just too busy to do any of that stuff. So it was like this little perfect time. And in 2012, I was way too young to even really register who Cameron was.
Yeah.
So it's just like, dang it. Like that was maybe my one opportunity to even meet the guy.
Well, you never know. I mean, you know, sometimes these holy grails can be grasped. You know, there was that brilliant podcast, Dead Eyes, which was almost a quest to find Tom Hanks. Do you know about this one?
No.
Okay. Sorry, it's a tangent. It's a brilliant. It's a brilliant podcast by an actor who was fired. Apparently, he was told by Tom Hanks for having dead eyes.
Okay.
So the film was his kind of quest to try and figure out what had happened. And you know what? The last episode, he gets Tom Hanks. He talks to Tom Hanks. You know, eventually, it's a long, torturous route. Spoiler alert, sorry, but you know, so I just think if Dead Eyes can get Tom Hanks, you can get James Cameron.
Wow. And it's a podcast or a film?
It's a podcast.
the podcasts.
Yeah, Dead Eyes.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway.
And he was fired by Tom Hanks?
Yeah. He had a small role in Band of Brothers, but
and
then
he
was
was
told by the casting director that Tom Hanks had rejected him because he felt that he had dead eyes.
right.
Which so of course it all, it's, anyway, whatever. Big tangent, but yeah, nothing to do with James Cameron. Apologies.
No, it's all good. It's all good because I know Hanks directed a couple movies. So I was trying to figure out if it was one of those movies, but he's an executive producer on that series, right?
Yeah, but it was an episode directed by Tom Hanks.
Oh, well, there you go.
Brothers. So there you go.
So there we go. We covered something on Tom Hanks 101.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Wouldn't it be brilliant if Tom Hanks worked with James Cameron? Anyway.
Right? Yeah. No, like I always wonder, like I always think about like back to Spider-Man, for example. Something that I would love to talk about for just a minute is like this hypothetical thing of, as great as Tobey Maguire is in those movies, and I really love those movies, I'm always just, man, I want to go into an alternate universe and just see what Leo would have done as Peter Parker. That just is something I'm always thinking about, just because there was even that artwork that was done for the poster.
One of the best
great
actors never cast, the Spider-Man. See also Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh yeah.
Although he got to be in the Spider-Man movie at least, so there you go.
So yeah, but
although I don't know, Leo wouldn't. I don't think he'd been that happy doing it. I don't think he'd have wanted to stick with it. I think it would have been like he'd have done one movie and then he'd probably been out after that, and he wouldn't have wanted to do it anymore.
Yes, and then there would have been a big problem because Sony would have been like, "Come on, they've just made $100 million."
Yeah, look at this drama we're creating in this alternate universe already. It's just like, amazingly Leonardo DiCaprio Spider-Man movie, but he just won't do it again. He just can't. He can't be brought back.
So so you've done 4 of these books now, and we're gonna come back to it, but really quickly, I just want to think about the future here. Is there after Nolan, what's up next, if you can talk about that?
Well, I do I do have another book out which is nothing to do with this series, which is The Art and Making of the Toxic Avenger. Okay, which is maybe more in line with Cameron's early work than the kind of movies he makes now, which is, it's just a super fun remake of that Truma film. And then I do have another kind of art of book coming out next year, but I don't think I'm allowed to say what it is at this stage. But it's a big movie that's out next year. And it's very sort of nitty-gritty making of kind of a book about a single film. And then in terms of the iconic director series, again, I can't say anything, but I am having a conversation. Literally, latest email was this afternoon, today, about what that might be, which director or directors I'll be doing next. But I can't say. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's all right.
Yeah, too soon. These books aren't even out yet. Cameron, let's get Cameron and Nolan out there, and then we'll see about the next ones.
There we go. And I see behind you, to like over your left, you have Tech Noir, which is a beautiful book.
I do. Oh, sorry, I'm leaning the wrong way.
There you go.
Sorry. Right there it is. Well, I mean, so this is my office. So I've got like all the books, the reference books, all lying around, like over here. Over down. You probably can't see them, but they're like the Nolan ones, Oppenheimer, Tenet, the Nolan variations, and then various Cameron biographies, The Futurist, just down there, and other James Cameron biographies, and then there's a pile of Tarantino and Coen books. So it's all like I'm not hiding my working out with this series.
I love it. Why do you think so here's a hard pressed question, because I feel like we've kind of just casually conversed, and that's totally fine, but I do want to ask you, why do you think, because in my opinion, and maybe your book along with The Futurist and all these other books that are slowly coming out, but in the grand scheme of things, James Cameron, I feel, is a sort of undervalued filmmaker today. a lot of times when you read best directors of all time, he's not in there for some reason. And I don't know if it's just because he's still working, but of course, you know, someone like Spielberg is still working and he's topping those lists all the time. So why is Cameron, well, first of all, do you agree he's undervalued? And if so, why do you think he is?
Oh yeah, no, I mean he's totally not. He's not what would you call a cineasts director. You know, he's not arty, or if you want to, you know, he's not art house. He sort of doesn't have indie cool or anything like that. You know, he has always been, you know, a very kind of audience focused filmmaker. So, you know, he never went to film school and he's totally self-taught. And actually has a lot with Quentin Tarantino in that regard. You know, they're both autodidacts. But, you know, Cameron has actually said quite early on in his career that, I can't remember exactly when he said this, but he said something along the lines of, you don't need to go to film school. You just need to instinctively understand what an audience wants. So it's kind of like his movies are very audience focused. It's like he doesn't, like, for example, he doesn't do you know, like film references much. You know, he does a few. You know, there's a bit of, you know, To Catch a Thief in True Lies. There's a bit of The Third Man in Aliens. But, you know, he doesn't do like references. He doesn't do stuff for film lovers necessarily. He isn't really speaking to them. And I kind of appreciate that about him. You know, he's a nerd. He's a sci-fi nerd. I mean, he's totally, you know, that's a big part of his background. He got into filmmaking through comic books and learned to draw through Marvel Comics, you know. So Marvel Comics were a big influence on him, for example. And then, of course, science fiction literature has just always been there. Like, he was obsessed with that. And on the other side of it, he's a blue collar guy. You know, he dropped out of college and went to, you know, drive buses, you know, for the school district. And he sort of comes at it from that side as well. He's very hands-on. He's an engineer. So in that sense, he's very much sort of like, you know, man of the people to one degree, but he's also a nerd to one degree. But what he's never been is like, I mean, I'm not saying he's not film literate, but he's not kind of like, that's the difference between him and someone like Tarantino, who's always referencing movies and loves that. And then, you know, film critics love that as well. Or someone like the Coen brothers. I'm just comparing him with other people I've written books about now, or someone like the Coen brothers, where they, you know, they learn cinema through absorbing cinema and absorbing film, and then all of that comes out in their movies. Cameron doesn't do that. He just takes you on really immersive rides, you know. it's kind of, you know, the chase of Terminator, or the kind of like, you know, the survival drama of Aliens, or again, Back to the Chase with Terminator 2. You know, they're all just kind of visceral thrill rides. Now, as I said earlier, that's not to say he doesn't deal with themes. I mean, he absolutely, there's a lot to tuck into with his movies. But because he does that, I just think, yeah, sometimes I think critics give him short shrift. He isn't as sort of highly regarded. I think quite often his films get a bit of a kicking from critics. Certainly, I mean, it's like Aliens did in comparison with Alien when it came out. Critics weren't so keen on it. The film was a huge success. Critics weren't so into it generally. And, you know, Titanic, obviously, everyone was expecting that to do terribly, because they saw him outside of his comfort zone and they saw what he was doing and thinking, what the hell is this guy trying to make a movie like this? And then even after it came out, and it was huge, you know, there was a lot of sort of, you know, ribbing of the dialogue and what have you. And that continues to this day, like the Avatar movies as well. But was it James Cameron said, and this was to one of my colleagues at Empire who spoke to him about the Terminator just last year, I think it was. You know, sort of like James Cameron said, look, you know, you have 3 of the 4 biggest movies of all time, and then come and talk to me about dialogue effectiveness. It's kind of like you can kind of, and again, I have that issue sometimes with Cameron. Sometimes I'm like, oof, that clanged a bit, that sort of that dialogue clanged a bit. But hey, you can't argue with the numbers. So I mean, I don't know if that really sort of answered your question, but yes, I do think he's sort of underappreciated by a lot of critics. I mean, like every few years, Time Out does a huge poll of the greatest ever movies, and they ask critics all over the world for their top 10 lists. And it's hilarious because, like, quite often, like, and they'll print the top 10 lists. And if you look at my top 10 list, it's full of films that never make their top 10 because I'm just doing stuff that I love. And Aliens is in my top 10 of all time movies. But I don't think you'll ever get Aliens in the top 10 all time movies generally. But hey, so yeah, he's a populist, totally a populist and filmmaker. I mean, obviously populism's bad in politics, but I think it's not necessarily bad in movies.
Yeah, and it's maybe just he's so populist, right? Like that's his thing. It's like populist entertainment is where he really strives. But again, it's like I'm going back to someone like Spielberg, and it's just always frustrating. And so like that's why I like to get to the bottom of it. Anytime I crack open a greatest directors, or there's a book that's out for a few years, A to Z, like the best filmmakers, and like one filmmaker for every letter from A to Z, and Cameron's not in J or C, and it's just like come on, man.
Well, he's got stiff competition, C. I mean, Cohen, Cameron Cohen,
Yeah.
But no, I mean, yeah, it's like most successful filmmaker. He is the most successful living filmmaker. I mean, pretty much, like, just numbers wise, box office wise, and he's won an Oscar. So it's kind of like his peers have awarded him, and also he's huge. But and I would also, like, in terms of whatever 5-star movies, he's got plenty of 5-star movies. On his resume, Aliens certainly. I mean, I don't know, Terminator 2 for me personally, both of those could get 5 stars. Titanic, I think, deserves it, and I think maybe not personally Avatar, but I think you could make a very strong case for Avatar as well. So he's no slouch, and yet, yeah, I say he is not a Cine East's filmmaker.
Yeah. It's wild, but I think it is a case of when either he's retired, or he's just way down the line, or he's not with us anymore, and then people look back on his work and go, "Oh man, wait, hold on, he actually is one of the greatest filmmakers of all time."
I mean, hopefully my book kind of makes the case.
Yeah, no, thank you for
yeah, hopefully it does. But like I say, I would say again, there are elements in there. There are, I think he has blind spots. I think he has weaknesses as a filmmaker for sure. But like I say, in the final analysis, he's definitely one of the greatest living filmmakers. I just don't know why anyone would argue that.
Yeah, and he really, outside of Piranha, which is a hard argument to even say is really his film, is he hasn't made a bad movie. And so you might say Avatar is hard to fight for 5 stars, but it's still a phenomenally put together, very, very visually impressive, and just all this stuff. So yeah, and then maybe Ghost of Hiroshima is going to be the movie that kind of,
well, could that be his Schindler's List?
Yeah.
Nolan kind of got there with Oppenheimer. So maybe Cameron will get there with that. But it's interesting because you might have guessed that Titanic would be that equivalent for him, and it kind of was in terms of the Oscar wins and sweeping the Oscars that year. But even then, people don't give that to him. Even then, people are like, yeah, but Titanic's a bit hokey. It's not, you wouldn't take that as seriously as Schindler's List, would you? Kind of a thing. And I think those people have a point. It's not that kind of a movie, but it is his Gone with the Wind. you know, so, and you know, like I say, Gone with the Wind is problematic, but in terms of the size and scale and achievement of it, then it's absolutely kind of, deserves that kind of recognition. And I've come back to Titanic time and time again, still love it, still love it. It just doesn't, it does not diminish. Like I say, you can pick apart little bits of, you can say that it's hokey in places, but then again, you even come back to it and you look at the performances of DiCaprio and Winslet, and it's just like brilliant, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is like, outside of what he's already given us, what is a movie that you would love to see him make?
Well, I think I've already said that. I'd love to see him make The Devils. I mean, come on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I say, I don't want to repeat myself too much, but when I heard that, first of all, hearing that James Cameron is a fan of something that you are also a fan of makes you feel really good, right? It's just like, oh, okay, cool. I already grooved on your movies when I was a teenager, and now I'm, a 50-something. You're into the same things that I'm into. That's really great to hear. But I love that book. That book is so fun, and I think it would make an absolutely brilliant movie. And the thought of that movie actually being made by James Cameron, I would honestly, if I had the power, I would fly to New Zealand. I would drag him away from Avatar, and I would sit him in a different studio and say, right, you got to make The Devils now. It's got to happen. I'm going to give you 2 years. And at the end of those 2 years, I want to see James Cameron's The Devils.
There we go.
There
And
you
that's
go.
that falls in line with horror fantasy.
Yeah. I mean, it's fantasy for sure, but it's also kind of alternative history as well.
Okay.
So it's set in an alternative Middle Ages. Or like a completely different Earth. It's like Troy never fell in this world, and the church is different. The church, Jesus isn't the son of God. There was a daughter of God, and that's what the Church of the Middle Ages is based upon. But it's a world where elves exist, and they're like the enemies of what their equivalent of Christendom. And it's a world where vampires exist. It's a world where werewolves exist. It's a world where magic exists. There are wizards and there are sorcerers and there are necromancers. And so, and it's such a great conceit. It's like, basically it's a group on a mission, but that group on the mission, they are the outcasts of this world. So it's a vampire, it's a werewolf, it's a I nearly said sorcerer. He would have been very upset by that. A magician, as he would call himself, this character. There's an old knight who's never died because he's cursed to immortality. And they're kind of like outcasts. And they are monsters. They are the devils. And they get sent on this important mission for the good of the church. And it's such a great idea. And Abercrombie, as I said, is one of my favorite writers. He's got such a great, gritty, dryly witty style. And I just think and he writes great action as well. Abercrombie is one of the greatest writers of action I've ever read. So to have one of the greatest writers of action I've ever read with the greatest director of action, hands down, that's it. That's the wish.
Yeah, because when that was announced and the press release came out from Lightstorm, it was I remember him saying in parentheses something about best served cold was his, like, one of his favorite from Abercrombie.
Yeah. I mean, probably I would say overall my favorite from Abercrombie is a book called The Heroes.
Okay.
So Best Served Cold is interesting because he did this trilogy set in his other fantasy world, and he did this trilogy. He said it wasn't really a trilogy, but each book was inspired by a different movie genre. So they're all fantasy and set in his other fantasy world, but each one's based on a movie genre. So Best Served Cold is his revenge thriller. The Heroes is his war movie, and then the next one, Red Country, is his western. So as I said, Abercrombie writes action better than anyone else. Nobody has ever written a battle scene better than Abercrombie does in The Heroes. Just saying. So that, to be honest, The Heroes, that's one that I'd love to see one day as a kind of medieval fantasy battle movie, and the whole story is is all set in this one battle, which is awesome. But Best Served Cold is huge fun. And actually, The Devils is kind of the closest he's done to Best Served Cold, because Best Served Cold is another kind of, it's a roaring rampage of revenge, Kill Bill style. But the main character, who is like an equivalent of the bride in Kill Bill, she gathers a gang around her. She gathers a group to help her achieve her objectives. So it's kind of like The Devils in that sense.
Awesome. Yeah, I personally, I'd never heard of Joe Abercrombie until this announcement from Cameron. So, and I feel like I'm not the only one that happened to. So now it's sort of, because I know when I walked into my local bookstore not that long ago, there was a whole thing. I think I'll pull the photo up here really quickly and show it to you. It's the whole thing. I mean, you're gonna love this, just to see that this was what it was. I don't know if my camera's gonna focus or not, but it was all the Devils.
Oh, oh, good. I'm very happy for Joe. I don't know Joe Abercrombie. He's a fellow Brit, but I want to turn more people on to Joe Abercrombie. It's like Game of Thrones, right? Was huge and deservedly so. I still think there's a whole Game of Thrones level success to be had in adapting Joe Abercrombie's books for TV and just letting them run. But The Devils, as I say, is ripe for a movie, because that's separate to all the previous books that he's done.
Right. So that, I mean, obviously that's probably going to be your number one when that's out and out in the ether. That's probably going to be the updated unofficial guide for you. You're going to,
I hope so.
Write a whole thing about the Devils.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. That's the dream. That's the dream book.
So, but look, I know we're going to keep it right around the 1 hour mark. So we're approaching, we have just a few minutes before we hit an hour. So I want to respect your time. So first and foremost, thank you for coming on.
It's okay.
Secondly, thank you for adding to a very small, but hopefully influential catalog of books on Cameron. There's not a lot of books on Cameron. So thank you for putting your voice into that mix.
You're most welcome. I mean, for me, it's just such a joy, just to sort of, be in good company. Like, Ian Nathan, who I know has been on here, he's a friend of mine and he's a great author. And obviously, he's got to write about Cameron as well. So the fact that I got an opportunity to join him and become part of that gang was it was super fun. And like I said, Cameron means a lot to me personally. He's just kind of been very influential on me in terms of sort of fueling my imagination and my enthusiasm for cinema. So the fact that I got to sort of tuck into his work and get to share that enthusiasm was a real treat. Yeah. And actually talking to you about it as well is a real treat. So, I'm almost disappointed that the hour is nearly up.
And every new guest gets the same question. You did technically answer it, but just if you want to flesh it out a little bit, what is your all-time favorite Cameron film? You said Aliens.
Yeah, I mean, so you've asked the question, so I'm going to rethink it afresh. But it has got to be Aliens. I mean, I'm to some degree. Like I say, Titanic, as I said earlier, I keep coming back to, and I keep expecting to not like it as much as the last time I liked it, and yet I still absolutely love it. And I would say that the Titanic does have one of the most powerful moments of cinema I've ever experienced in my whole life, which I do mention in the book. So I'm going to come back to Aliens in a minute, but I just want to give Titanic give you its due. So it's the moment where Jack's chained up, he's cuffed, and Rose is on her way to rescue him. And she's got an axe in her hand and she's moving through this corridor. It's filling up with water. And you can hear the death throes of the ship. You hear the creaking of the ship. And I remember being in the cinema this is when it came out. So this would have been January 1998. So in the UK, it came out January 1998. and then everything just goes black. The whole screen goes black, and all you can hear is Kate Winslet's breathing, ragged breathing. You know, she's freezing cold, and the booming, creaking of the ship. And it was just terrifying, like just more sort of profoundly terrifying than anything I've ever seen in a horror movie. Just for those few moments, and then the lights come back on. She keeps moving. So I'm going to say that like Titanic did that. And the thing with Aliens, though, is for me, it's a different kind of thing, because I think I'm going to shock you and say I've never seen Aliens in a cinema.
All right.
Yeah. I've seen Alien in a cinema, but I've never seen Aliens in a cinema, which one day I will. But Aliens was a whole different experience, because Aliens, for me, that was VHS. That was a VHS thing. That was kind of like going around my friend's house. Hey, I've got Aliens on video. Shall we watch it? Yeah, let's watch it. We watch it. My God, let's watch it again and again and again and again. And I have seen... There's few other films that I've seen as many times as I've seen Aliens. I mean, Return of the Jedi, maybe for different reasons, but yeah. So this was kind of like my teenage years, and it was just becoming obsessed with something, and it's just something about its mix of action, its mix of science fiction, its mix of horror. It kind of sort of hits the best of all three genres for a time during its running time. It's command of characters as well. I think obviously Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, the way she develops through the film and what we learn about her, you know, that wasn't apparent from the first Alien film, is astonishing. Her performance is amazing. And then it's that ensemble that she's got around her, this kind of like this fun gang of grunts, and all their exchanges, and you love them. And a lot of them, they're not in it for much time. They don't get much screen time, but they're indelible. You know, characters like Apone, characters like Drake. Gorman gets a bit more time, although he's unconscious for most of it. Obviously Vasquez, everyone remembers. And then, you know, like I say, Bill Paxton as Hudson is just one of the all-time great kind of, you know, supporting performances in that kind of, the kind of the nervy, jittery, annoying guy, but you love him anyway. And yeah, so it was for me that for a time that movie was everything, and the script is just amazing. It's just the propulsiveness of it, the pacing of it, and I'm talking about the theatrical cut, by the way.
I was just about to ask you, are you a theatrical or special edition?
Theatrical.
Theatrical, okay.
100% theatrical. I think the special edition's got good stuff, and I appreciated seeing it, having read the novelization, which, yes, I've read the novelization of Aliens, which of course had that stuff in it, it had the sentry guns and everything like that. I think if I absolutely bet you've heard this before, and other people have said this, so I don't think I'm being original by saying this, but the Dan Jolin cut of Aliens would bring back the sentry guns and bring back a lot of the later stuff, like the pointed sticks gag, and everything, but it would leave out seeing Hadley's Hope before Ripley gets there. Right? All that stuff kills the tension. Don't want to see what's happening on the planet. When it cuts away from Ripley and shows us what's happening, like, oh, meanwhile, over on the planet, I think that just spoils the pacing. I love the fact that we stay with Ripley. We're Ripley's point of view. We don't return to that planet until Ripley returns to that planet. Because, you know, I just think the truth of the Alien saga is it's not the Alien saga, it's the Ripley saga. And Cameron got that in a way that Ridley Scott didn't. So, which is why I think Aliens is not only the best James Cameron movie, it's the best Alien movie. I rank it over Alien. So there you go.
There we go. And so it's safe to say that the more recent Alien movies are not necessarily your cup of tea, just because the whole Ripley she's not even in them.
Yeah. I mean, I am enjoying Alien Earth in a kind of, it's sort of Baroque, almost sort of hyper real style, which I appreciate. I hated Prometheus and Alien Covenant I'm very happy to be on the record as saying that. I did enjoy Alien Romulus though, which falls into the tradition of naming the movies after the ships, which I know Prometheus and Covenant did too. But anyway, but I enjoyed Alien Romulus. I kind of didn't see the need for Alien Romulus, but like fine.
Yeah.
It was a fun way to spend a couple of hours. But to me, no one's ever done it better than Cameron did. And of course, he created the Alien Queen. He created the alien. This is it. You know, it's like there wasn't Geiger or it wasn't sort of O'Bannon and Shusett. It was like James Cameron came up with that. He completed the life cycle of the alien. He closed the loop, and went, here you go. And then of course Prometheus and Covenant were just like, fuck the Alien Queen. What you know, we don't want that. Like Ridley Scott was just like, hey, I'm not having that in it. And it just became all this weird oozy woozy whatever, I don't know, stuff. And it's just like, why would you ignore the Alien Queen? Come on, guys.
Now, out of the franchise, this is the last thing, and then we'll wrap it up here. I've seen Alien, Aliens, and then Prometheus, Covenant, Romulus. For some reason, I'm just dreading 3 and 4.
Oh my. No, you have to watch 3.
I have to watch 3?
Yeah. I got told off by David Fincher once for liking Alien 3. David Fincher actually said to me, you are wrong. Alien 3 is terrible. And I said, no, there's a lot going for it. And I'm like, why am I arguing with the guy who made it? But I think Fincher's wrong about his own film. Alien 3, again, I went to see that at the cinema, right? And I went in cold. I had no idea what was going to happen. And it blew my mind. And I'm not going to spoil it for you. Probably know what happens in it, but I'm not going to. But it blew my mind the direction they took in it, and it pissed Cameron off for understandable reasons. But and he said this to Fincher. But yeah, I really enjoyed Alien 3. It's really bleak. It's really dark. It's really stripped down, nasty, weird kind of take on it. And I think that is a very underappreciated film, as I said, including by the person that actually made it. Or Alien Resurrection, interesting. Kind of like the Ripley character that's in that. Obviously, it's not Ripley anymore. I kind of like that Ripley character. I kind of like where it starts going to some degree, and then it just falls off a cliff. Just like, you know, you can actually pinpoint the exact moment in that movie where it falls off the cliff. And I've got to, I can't take credit for this. I think Harry Knowles of Ain't It Cool News pinpointed the moment, and I totally agree with him. It's the line, the Queen, I can feel her pain. That line.
I'll remember that.
That line is when it just goes completely wrong. So for that reason, Eddie, you've got to see it.
All right.
So that I just want to see if you agree with me and Harry Knowles.
I'll definitely have to. Well, I mean, I have the intentions of it. It's just I've been scared from all the, you know, the general consensus is 3 and 4 are definitely not 1 and 2. So
it's only 4 hours of your life. I mean, you know, when I write these books, I sit through everything. I rewatch everything, even the stuff I hated the first time around. And it's quite good because it means I get to see the things that I never saw. Like I hadn't seen Piranha 2.
Oh,
before I started writing this book. So I thought I got to see Piranha 2 before I start writing this book. And Galaxy of Terror. I mean, we did get into that stuff. I had to sit through Galaxy. If I sat through Piranha 2 and Galaxy of Terror, I actually quite like Battle Beyond the Stars. If I had to sit through those 2 films to write this book, you can sit through Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection after doing this podcast.
All right. I mean, they are right behind me, so I will definitely have to do that. So
all right, you got to do it. It's 4 hours of your life. You can break it up, right? Just don't even watch them all in one go. When you're having your lunch, sit down to have your lunch, watch the first half of Alien 3 while you're having your lunch. Next day, second half of Alien 3 while you're having your lunch. Do that, and by the end of the week, you'll have seen them, and it'll be fine.
All righty. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that has been Dan JOLIN from Empire Magazine, and of course the upcoming, as of now, but I have a feeling I'm going to put this out maybe just a couple days before the book comes out. So by the time you're probably watching it, the book is out. go and pick it up. Obviously, Amazon has it, but I mean,
Yeah.
bookstores. If you're lucky enough to have a bookstore near you, see if they have it in stock as well, and support Mr. Dan Jolin over here. Would love to get you back on for something else Cameron related. We have to figure it out.
Cool. That would be cool. If you need me, I'm here. I'm always happy to talk JC.
All right. Well, stick around. We'll do a formal goodbye. I'm just going to end it here. Everybody, thanks for watching, supporting. Like I always say, go watch a Cameron film.